Welcome back to another episode of the Man That Can Projects podcast. I'm your host, Lachie Stewart, and it's going to be a short, sharp one today, but very, very effective and important for a lot of you blokes out there, right? It's going to be 5 tips to improve communication with your partner. Today, I had a young fella, and I was very proud of this young fella, reach out to me as he's going through a tough period in his relationship, and he was asking for advice and guidance around how he can improve his relationship by improving his communication. And I believe communication and how effective we are at utilizing it, but also understanding it, can help us create better results in our life, right? I know for me, from my experience, when I really struggled to communicate with myself, and I talk about this in previous episodes, but my communication with myself sucked. Therefore, my communication with other people and the world around me sucked equally. So I always think, as much as these 5 tips that I'm going to give you are super helpful, the greater or the more time you spend improving your communication with yourself. And I'll if you have any questions about that, just comment them or flick me a message, because I do have other episodes on that, but I'll kind of off the top of my head remember which episodes they are. But we want to improve our communication with ourselves, because when we're communicating well with ourselves, we're generally going to have a better relationship with ourselves, which means we value ourselves more, we respect ourselves more, we've enforced and set boundaries, okay? And we generally have a better idea of what we want. So when we know more about what we want and what we expect from our quality of life, it makes it easier to make decisions, right? It makes it easier to communicate those decisions to get the outcomes, right? Super simple. So point number 1, be genuinely interested, right? This one may seem like a no-brainer, but have you ever sat there before and been in a conversation, and while the conversation's going on, you find yourself thinking about someone else, or maybe your watch vibrates and you check a notification, or you see someone walk past in the background and continually your focus is going, or worse, is you're listening to respond, right? You're not listening for the sake of listening. And I have been guilty, and I still experience and have all of those moments in my life, because life is busy, and with all the smartwatches and everything I got to watch there, looking for it, it's not on my wrist. But we have all these distractions, right? And most people, our minds are racing so fast. So when we're listening, we might hear something that triggers a memory or triggers us to want to respond in a way, or even react. And generally, when you're trying to communicate effectively with your partner, you just got to shut up and fucking listen. If there's a point that is that important while it's being brought up, maybe you start communicating and having a notepad so you can write something down. Or if it's that important, it should come up and it should raise its head at another point in time. But generally, I've found from communicating with my partner, if I try to butt in, or if I try to cut her off and provide some feedback or anything like that, that's not what she wants. She just wants to talk. And then if I feel I can add any value or ask any questions or anything like that at the end, but most of the time she just generally appreciates me listening. So learn to listen with interest, actively get excited about what your partner's talking about. And if you can't, and you really struggle to find any conversation that they have where you're genuinely interested, maybe you need to think about how good your relationship is. But that's for another topic and another day. Secondly, distraction-free time. I was reading my notes and I'm like, what did I even write? But distraction-free time. How often do you, or are you with your partner and you don't have your mobile phones, you don't have other people around, you don't have Netflix or anything going on, where it's just you guys and you can really build on that connection? A lot of people feel uncomfortable in that space. And granted, these little mobile devices are awesome, but they do take away a lot of your intention and your focus. You might be having a conversation while at the same time you're looking down and replying to a message, or you're Googling something, just like we do when we're watching Netflix. You're generally fact checking stuff or seeing if stuff's real. I'm guilty of that. I do that all the time. But just being able to put aside, whether it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, where you go, look, and you might have this conversation with your partner. You say, look, it's important for me, and I believe it's important for our relationship, that we spend some distraction-free time, right? And what I would love that to look like, and I'm open to having a conversation and setting some boundaries and expectations for what that time looks like. But off the top of my head, that might be no mobile phones, no other people. We can go for a hike. Currently, what myself and my fiance are doing every night before when we get into bed, no phones, roll over, look at each other in the eyes, and just talk. Get a few cheeky pashes in there, but just talk and connect. What's been going on in your life? What are you thinking about? What are you excited about? What's stressing you? Learn to ask questions, and you'll generally find yourself wanting to talk so much more. And in that time, like, that is one of my, honestly, it's one of the favorite parts of my day, is getting that, we talk for longer than 10 minutes, but just saying, right, when we get in bed, there's no one's texting us, the phones aren't there to distract us, Netflix isn't going on, it's just you and I. And that's where we really work on our relationship and solidify things and get to have awesome conversations. So second point is distraction-free time. Work out where it is, what the boundaries and the expectations are on that. So obviously, if you don't set boundaries and expectations, and you're having your distraction-free time, and then all of a sudden you see your partner checking their phone or their watch, and they go, oh, sorry. It's like, well, if you don't establish that, it's really hard to get cranky at that, even though it's something that frustrates you, and it probably goes with the title of being distraction-free time. I believe it's coming back to communication. It's important to over-communicate and set boundaries and expectations, because at least then, if they are crossed or anything like that, you can give warnings and everything, but you can also highlight it. Remember when we were deciding on this distraction-free time, one of the non-negotiables or the standards and expectations was we weren't going to bring our phone to that. So I'd like to hold us to that standard. If you can put your phone down just for another 10 minutes while we have this time, something like that. Work on however you communicate, but just continually work on over communicating. You can never over communicate, in my opinion, in relationships anyway, and in many other things. So we've covered genuine interest, we've covered distraction-free time. Thirdly, which is sort of, we touched on it then, is set boundaries around your relationship. And from a communication standpoint, it might be honesty, right? It might be that distraction-free time is a very important thing. It might be growing together, right? An expectation myself and my fiance have, Amy has, is we grow together, right? We are continually reading books. We're not always reading the same ones. We're listening to podcasts, and then we get to talk about them and discuss them. And we don't always agree on what each other's learning, but it creates a fucking brilliant conversation to seek to understand. And obviously boundaries we have around communication. And as I've mentioned, is we have date nights. We aim for every week, but if for whatever reason we have other events, etc., at least every fortnight, where we invest time in the relationship and working on that communication, we have distraction-free time, right? It's important that one of the things for me that I had to own and I had to communicate is, previously, and not with Amy, but in previous relationships, when I got angry or upset or frustrated, I would be aggressive and I would yell and scream, because that's how I would get my opinion across. Whereas now I feel if I'm upset with something or something bugging me or frustrating me, I tend to be a little bit more reserved. So because I've had that conversation with Amy and she's well aware of it, she can now know what to expect if that's how I'm acting. She can ask, what's going on for me? Is something bugging me? And she, I've given her permission to talk about if my mood's been reserved or I'm shutting off, because I like being called on my bullshit. Sometimes I love sitting in it and I'll go, no, I'm all good. And I'll just sit in it a bit more. For whatever reason, I enjoy that from time to time. But setting boundaries around how we choose to communicate to each other. One of our boundaries is obviously, no, we don't fight ever. And when you listen to the episode Amy and I did, which is coming up in the next couple of episodes, we talk about that. I don't believe relationships should have screaming matches. For me, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you yell at someone that you love? So set those boundaries and expectations. And if you have more questions about that, and you're not join the free Facebook group and message me, leave comments, whatever you're consuming this content, just reach out and I'm happy to have a yarn with you. I'd love to have a yarn. But that's point 3, set boundaries. Point 4, tip 4, whatever I want to call it, become more self-aware. So this goes back to learning to communicate better with yourself. Understand your emotions, your moods, what excites you, what stresses you out, what's actually going on in your life. Learn to read your partner, right? Learn their love language. There's a great book called The 5 Love Languages, which I highly recommend anyone who's in a relationship, been in a relationship, or expecting to get into a relationship should read. Also, there's many other great books out there, which I won't list off now because we've got a whole bookshelf and I can't read that far. But continue to work on that with being more self-aware, not only about yourself and how you conduct yourself within a relationship, but also how your partner conducts himself within a relationship. If a relationship's important to you and you're doing this together, like with anything, if you're doing a business deal, right? If you're looking to buy a business or you're looking to start a business, generally you'll do due diligence. This is where you work out if there's a need in the market, the risk assessment, all these various other things about whether it's going to be a good use of your time. The same thing with relationships. Do due diligence around your partner. This sounds weird to call it like that, but check in how they're going. Are they feeling great? Is their work life going well? Is their mental and emotional health going well? What are they lacking? What are they craving? Like all these things, guys, it's just communication. The better you can get at asking questions, and for anyone who wants a good place to go, obviously YouTube's brilliant for this, but I also have the Breakthrough Online experience, which is you go through it at your own pace. You just go over to the website, themanthatcanproject.com/breakthrough experience, and get on with that. Like we talk a heap about what we're talking about in this course, but so much more on this podcast, sorry, but so much more. But self-awareness changed my life, and it's helped me become a better person, a better partner, a better business owner, just better at everything that I do. I truly believe that. And 5, or the 5th one, is practice communicating how you feel and what you're thinking on a daily basis. One of the things that held me back for a significant portion of my life was the fact that I didn't feel I could articulate how I was feeling or what I was thinking. And that used to frustrate me into myself. So by practicing having conversations with people that I trust, or even journaling, right? This is why journaling is awesome, because you can write out what you're thinking, and then you can read it back and go, actually, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. And that's how we learn to make more sense of how we're thinking and feeling, guys. And as with every muscle we flex, the more we flex it, the easier it becomes, and the faster we can think on our feet. And it's something that I'm grateful I have invested a lot of time in. Like even this podcast that I'm doing right now is completely off the cuff. All I did is literally, if you see my phone, I've got a note that I took at some point from reading a book or talking to someone. Literally, better communications with your wife is what I wrote down. Thought of 5 points that have helped me, and now I'm sharing them with you guys. And I'll listen to this back and I'll go, okay, how can I articulate that better next time, or be more direct, or what language do I need to change? So it's a skill in itself. It takes time, but it does get easier. Or another great tip for that one, practicing your communication, video yourself, right? Video yourself. It's freaky, right? Really is fucking daunting for a lot of blokes. I had a guy at a workshop once. I made him do it. And he goes, look, you've made me look like a fucking fool on here because I've just minced up all my words and forgotten what I wanted to say. And I was like, mate, this is perfect. It's perfect because now you can watch that fucking video back and you can decide on what you would have said differently if you hadn't have freezed or if you hadn't jumbled your words. You start filling in the blanks, guys. This is how we build. We set our foundation and we build layer upon layer upon layer. And you're not going to grow without failure, without fucking up. So understand that that's going to happen and be okay with it. But gents, that's it. We've given you 5 tips for better communication with your partner, whether it's with your husband, your wife, your family, your children, your employers, whoever it is, doesn't matter. That is how you can start improving better. So just to recap, genuine interest, show genuine interest with whoever you're engaging in conversation with, eye contact, asking questions to get for greater understanding, just listening, just holding space, distraction-free time, as I mentioned, setting boundaries, becoming more self-aware as an individual, and also more socially aware with what's going on in the world around you is probably a key thing as well. We did actually a big series on that in the Strong Men of Value, which was powerful. 5 is practice communicating daily around what you're thinking and what you're feeling, whether it's journaling, videoing yourself, whatever it is. practice, practice, practice. That's how we improve understanding, find our blind spots, and get better than we were yesterday. So, gents, if you're listening for the first time, hit subscribe, share it with a mate, leave a comment. Like, I'd love to chat with you. And I know you guys probably, whether you're hearing me say this or not, you won't do it, which is fine, because I don't do it when people tell me to do it. I just do it when I've heard enough good episodes. But keep coming back. You'll hear a heap more fucking awesome episodes. But thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, if you want to check out anything that we're doing, head over to the website, themanthatcanproject.com. You can listen to the podcast. You can join our in-person events. You can just jump on a self-paced program for yourself. Whatever you want, we got it there to help you be the best version of yourself, create massive momentum, and be a man that can. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.